Hello everyone and welcome back. So in this video we'll be building this earpad model, mostly procedurally, and taking advantage of the new Houdini 20.5 tools, or modeling tools. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, let's start by dropping a container and create lab simple shapes to create the earpad piece. I'm gonna change it to XY plane. So we're facing the Z-axis and we want a quad and we don't want equal sizes, so let's copy the top and paste on the base so we can control this value. 1.19 was the value I found and a height of 1.6. Now we want to round the corners and I'm gonna round it quite a bit, something like this, and 5 divisions. So now let's fuse the points and drop a resample. In this case 0.1 will be fine. Let's change it to subdivision curves and now we can sweep it. And let's change this to ribbon. And on the sweep I just want one column, one division, and a width of 0.45. Okay, now let's extrude this, and we will extrude it by 0.225. And let's bevel it, and we will bevel only, we will ignore the flat edges, and we'll bevel it quite a bit, 0.18, and 3 divisions, so something like this. Now we want to create the UVs, so for that let's see, maybe in here, let me see the point order. I can drop a range. I'm just experimenting in here, so let's select one of endpoints. Oops. Let's offset it. And now let's see if that propagates. And it does, so we can just, let's see. Yeah, we can just select it manually, but maybe we can use a node, so find paths, group find paths, and it's group 1, so let's go paste group 1, and there you have it. And let's group promote it to edges. Oh, it's not this one, it's this one, and include only elements on the boundary. Now we can drop a UV flatten, and in here the seams will be this one, and we will also rectify it and untick manual layout. I believe that's it. And now we can create an all. and maybe UV unitize. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this one, but just in case. This just stretches the shell to all the available space. So let's continue on the next part. Okay, so now from the sweep we can create a null and a group. We want to group the unshared edges, so let's go, in this case, points. It will be different because these create boundary groups will create two different groups, one for each edge, because we just want to fill this inside piece. So let's group remote two edges, and let's group remote group, in this case 0, two edges, and polyfill. And we can just select this group 1 and single polygon. Now let's use the new tool, planar inflate, to create the back parts. So this will inflate it in the positive Z direction. In this case I want to be on the negative side, and let's reverse the faces and change the iterations to 8. So something like this. And we can change the target length to 0.1 to have more subdivisions. Now we will quad remesh this, and let's see if this is giving any good results. Maybe just 2000, and that's good enough. Now let's give it a bit of blur, attribute blur, and we will blur the position just once, just to get rid of those weird polygons. Let's subdivide it, once is fine, and polyfill. Let's see how this will go. Let's try to quadrilateral grids. Let's smooth it quite a bit, and this will be fine. And now we can merge this, or we'll merge it after. Let's just visualize. So this is our progress so far. So now we will create wrinkles on the earpiece. So for that, let's create another null, and we will subdivide it by 2. Let's just enable this piece, and we will create an attribute adjust float, because we want to mask the wrinkle deformer. Let's call it mask UV, and this will be on the bounding box of the Z-axis. So let me check. Oh, I need to visualize it. And we will create some contrast in here. Something like this will be fine. So we don't want to affect these areas, only this part. and have some sort of fall off. We'll create the wrinkle deformer. So for that, let me check. We'll create just a mountain in here. Let me disable the visualization, and we'll go with the value of 0.03, element size of 0.31, and some sort of offset. So this will be fine, and let's create a wrinkle deformer and connect the mesh we want to deform and the deformed mesh. And we need to change quite a few things. So the first one is we want this to be cloth, we want to increase the iterations, and the wrestling scale, so something like this. And we also want to change the ring scale to 0.75, and as you can see, it's distorting this initial shape in here, so we want to mask it by the mask UV, so we have those parts intact. And let's just add a subdivision, and before that we actually want to delta smooth some more, so about T3, and if we subdivide we have something like this, which is fine, but is not exactly what we're looking for. We want this directional stretching, and in order to create that we need to make some masks to create some tension around the seams area. So we will need to create those masks, and let me just check. We need to start in here. Let's create another null. And we have the UV, so let's split the UV seams and promote it. I'm not sure this is needed, but so let's now select. I believe I was experimenting with something else, and probably we don't need this. Why is not selected? Okay, so we will select this manually just to save some time, and let's group this. Let's call it seams group, and we will convert line and connect paths, so we have single primitives and it's connected. And let's see, we can just create a null and call it out points, and let's create a copnet, and this will be really simple. So let's create a copnet, and we want sub import. Oops, let's copy this, Control C and Control V. Now rasterize setup, so to move it to the space of to the UV space, and we just want to stamp the points. and the scale of 0.067 was working for me. And we also want to blur it, so blur, so the transition is not so harsh, and quite a bit. And now let's just invert this, because we want to keep everything else but those areas, those edges. So this should be fine. I'm just going to create a null, and in here we want mono actually, so this is fine. And let's create a null, out, mask, seams. Let's Control C and copy, and now in here, in the second input of this wrinkle deformer, we will create a mask. So let's go with attribute from color, attribute from map, and we will use OP column and paste the path. And we don't want on the CD, we want mask seams and float, and not visualize. We can just place the visualizer in here, and I believe that's all. Let's just have a normal just in case, and everything should be working now. If we look at the wrinkle deformer and the subdivision, and we will enable on the wrestling scale, we will scale by attribute, and we will scale by the mask seams. So as you can see, it's creating that stretching of the fabric. So let's check something in here. In this mask, as you can see, in here is slightly bigger. So if you want to change that, you can create a p-scale attribute. So in here, let's create a connectivity, and I believe it's on the frames. Let's visualize that. Can be on point. And let's create an attribute to just float, and by default it will be on the p-scale. So let's change this constant value to 1 and the default value to 1.4, and just say at class is equal to 0. So this one, it will be slightly bigger, as you can see. Does that make any difference? Well, and let's maybe increase the subdivisions, and maybe reduce some of that smoothing. So now the only thing left to do is to create the stitching, and that should be a simple task. So we just need to, from here, take a resample, and let's go with a small value 0.005 and change it to subdivision curves, so quite dense, Now we want to align the stitches to the deformed mesh. So we can use I used some vex, but let's try to use just the ray. So let's change this ray and change this to min pos. And let's see, what else do I need to transfer? The normal. So let's go import point attribute from it, and let's go with vertex, not vertex. I don't have a normal. So I need to place a normal in here. And can be on the points. And now we can import it. Let's check, and it's working fine. Maybe let's attribute blur, the n, and 100, and that is totally fine. So we can orient the stitches. So what else? Now, in order to create the stitches, we will have to use some vex coding, but it will be really simple. So let's start by creating an attribute wrinkle, and we can save, instead of measuring, let's save the perimeter because we will need it. And we have a prim intrinsic called measured perimeter, measured perimeter, and we will do at prim num, and on the primitives. So now we can promote it, attribute promote, and let's promote it from primitive to point perimeter, and let's fuse. So this is fine. Now we will create the pattern. Let's just make sure we don't recompute the normals because we will need them. So let's create a wrinkle. And first of all, we need a value along the curves, like a curve view, and we can use the vertex curve parameter function to get the intrinsic UVs, so that will be just fine. So vertex curve param 0 v at vertex number, and if we assign this f at u equals u, and check out this, as you can see, it's creating this something like the curve view attribute. And now we can create a variable for the frequency of the effect, so float freq and chf channel float frequency. And now we will just create the pattern, so this will be float pattern, and it will be equals to the scene, since we want an undulating effect, and it will be on the U, and we will multiply it by the frequency. And let's see if we assign this to the position. So P plus equals, and along the normals, and multiplier, and also the pattern, of course. Let's see what that gives us. So if we increase, now let's go with the frequency of 100 and a multiplier of 0.012. So we get this undulating effect, but actually we don't want this back and forth, this undulating effect. We want to only have the front part displacing, so we want to flatten the part that goes back, and for that we can just absolute this, and we will also multiply the U by the perimeter, so we have the same pattern on both curves, and this is what it's giving us, and you can see it's respecting the normals, so this will be fitting nice on our shapes. So can just create, we can just attribute delete this and create a sweep, and it will be a round tube, and the round 0.004, so really small. And now let's see this, let's merge, and as you can see it's a bit, we need to move them a bit in. So what we can do in here, we can just pick and don't recompute, and let's pick it a bit in, so something like this. And if we merge everything, take this, can delete this one, and there we have the ear pads. And we might want to use a normal in here, so we don't get that weird result. So yeah guys, this was a simple exercise, but hopefully if you're a beginner, you start to have an idea about procedural modeling and how you can implement it in your own projects. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.